So, growing up, football was a huge part of my upbringing. I lived in between Chelsea Football Stadium and Fulham Football Stadium, so the football clubs in Stamford Bridge and like near what we call Bishop's Park, if you know the area. As a result, had a lot of. I went to a mixed primary school, so I had a lot of boys in my class who thought they were going to be the next David Beckham, I guess. Although I don't know if David Beckham. I don't know how popular people like David Beckham were. Maybe I was a little bit older by that point. But what I do remember is, yeah, pretty much every like lunchtime break, they would all be out there playing football and probably all thought that they were going to be the next England star. And obviously, just despite being a girl and it not typically being a thing, I just naturally had an interest in football, probably because maybe I was a little bit interested in the boys. But there was a girl in primary school who would play like football, and she was like a proper tomboy and fit that kind of profile, being pretty good at football. Um, but I think this was one of my early instances. Now that I can look back on it, where I realised that a lot of life just actually isn't fair, because we had, maybe it was like a Red Nose Day or Comic Relief or some kind of event, and they said Gary Lineker is going to come to the school, which I don't know if he did that often back then or what the deal was, but and I don't really remember how much I knew about Gary Lineker. I don't know if he was doing his crisp thing back then, but I knew who he was. And I knew he was a footballer, and I knew he was famous. And they said he's coming to the school as part of whatever, Comic Relief, Red Nose Day, blah, blah, blah. And if you're in the top of the class, you'll get to meet him. So I was at the top of the class, but I did not meet Gary Lineker. They let three people in my class meet him. Two were at the top of the class. The third guy was probably towards the middle or the bottom. And I was like, bear in mind, I was in year three, maybe year three or year four. I was like, wait a second. I know for a fact that this guy, as nice as he is, shout out to him, he is not the smartest guy in the class. Ain't no way. And I thought, that's weird. Have I fallen off? Have I fallen off and no one told me? Anyway, the event happens. He comes to the school. We're not even allowed to see him, even get a whiff of him. One of the administrators, or what are they called? People that work in reception or support staff. One of the support staff's sons got to meet him. And I was like, that kid is definitely not smart. But okay, fine, whatever. Fast forward a few days, and my teacher says to me, she was a really strict teacher, but what I remember about her was that she put me on liking fantasy films and things like that, because she used to read us The Hobbit. I don't know why. Anyway, I'm on a tangent. Back to the main story. She told me, yes, I didn't ask her, she just told me unprovoked, yes, you are at the top of the class, but we thought that X would enjoy meeting Gary Lineker more than you. And I thought, you beep beep, you didn't even ask me, you didn't even check if that is something that I would have been interested in, you just made that decision for me. And what did I get as a consolation prize? Did I get a bar of chocolate? Did I get any kind of special recognition? No. I got absolutely nothing for that. Not only that, the random teaching assistant's kid, who was not at the top of the class, also got special treatment to meet Gary Lineker. Anyway. So yes, in the game of life, things are not particularly fair. Fast forward to let's say maybe a few years later, I was still in primary school. The head of, one of the admin team, she was the person that lets you in when you're on coming to school in the morning. she was the biggest Chelsea fan ever. And I was always a bit worried of Chelsea because at the time, like my parents grew up in the area, they were very much associated, the Chelsea football fans, with like being super racist. And so I just like was like, ooh, not Chelsea. I mean, I know Fulham's not as good, although they were better. Were they better then than they are now? Fulham, they might have been. This was the 90s. So anyway, she wins, I think, or she gets like maybe 50 tickets, and there's a raffle, and I get the ticket, and me and my brothers, we go to Chelsea Football Club to watch them play, I think Derby or something like that. Terrible game. It's 1-0. It is the most boring game I've ever seen. We have really good seats. We're like right at the front, so you can see everything. So boring. So, growing up, I would watch the World Cup. I would watch the, I guess Euros. Were Euros always around? But any big event where it was like, England versus whoever. But I didn't really watch league football or anything like that. It was just like I only will watch the big games that people are going to talk about. But something changed this year, last year, which was 2024, in that after I watched the Euros, I just got somehow back into football again. And I've been watching like Premier League football, I've been watching a bit of La Liga, Champions League, and I don't really know what changed, but I think that there is something really addicting about football. There's something really engaging about football. I think a lot of it is like around the live nature. Like I love live TV. I love Twitch. During lockdown, Twitch kept me alive, watching people playing like Rust and things like that, and GTA. I love watching things happening in the moment, which is what I think is really great about football, because you just don't know what's going to happen. You don't know who's going to get sent off. You don't know who's going to kick off. You don't know if they're all going to start fighting. You don't know who's going to score that random goal from a really weird point where no one else sees it coming. Like, you just don't know what you're going to get. So it's like a very exciting and inviting experience versus more structured kinds of television that you kind of know the trajectory that something's going to go in. It's predictable. It follows a consistent theme. Nothing really weird's going to happen. It's been curated to death. Whereas with football, it's like it's unexpected. And yes, occasionally you're going to have a really boring game. Or yesterday I watched Liverpool. Who did they play? Leicester? I don't know. They played someone. And the game was boring for most of it. And then right at the end, all these goals just came flying in out of nowhere. And it's stuff like that where you don't know if there's going to be a payoff. You don't know when the payoff's going to land. You don't know if a certain person or certain configurations can just completely change the game. And I really like that. It feels real. It feels tangible. It feels... And I think that a lot of this, in a way, is a weird commentary about movies and just the state of film in general, which is very much become very formulaic. You know, you don't want to offend anyone. You don't want to upset certain types of people. You don't want to do this or do that. A lot of films now are like government funded, especially in America. A shock for me was like discovering that Argo was like backed by the American Secret Services. But with football, I'm sure that there is probably loads of dodgy things that go on behind the scenes when it comes to football. But as a viewing person, it's really hard to detect. One thing I do find a bit suspicious is when someone starts kicking off and they get sent off. I'm like, surely you should have a bit more self-control than that, right? Surely you should know that if your team goes down to 10 men, you're probably going to lose, right? So I always find that a bit suspicious, like when people get kicked off, get worked up and then get kicked off, because I'm like, I looked a lot at like England's past failures at like World Cups and things like that, and almost exclusively where they failed was because their top striker went off. It does feel a little bit suspicious. It feels a little bit convenient. I definitely feel like, you know, maybe this is maybe it is copium, But I definitely feel like England has had a lot of opportunities to genuinely win the big games, and then someone has kicked off in the team and it's messed everything up. I don't believe it could be just be genuinely heightened emotions, but I don't know. Anyway, this isn't to talk about like conspiracy around the rigged nature of football games, but it's just to talk about the unpredictability of a lot of games. And yeah, I like it. What I like is I like people with a bit of flair. I'm not going to list all the footballers that I like, but certain players have a certain level of like, don't give a about this and that, and they're just there to pop the goals in. There's some that just are very graceful and move in a really nice way. And like, if you were to press pause on a video at any given moment in time, it's like they're doing some kind of ballet or dance pose. There's some that just have pure power. There's some that just have, yeah, it's like a performance. It's like a theatre production or a yeah, like even like a Shakespearean production. It's like it has, people think of football as being kind of lowbrow, but actually maybe it was that in the past, but I actually think now with modern day football, there's so much more to talk about. There's so much more, there's so many levels to it. Whether it's, you know, I like this person or not that, or this person's better than that. There's so much drama amongst people. There's so much drama amongst the teams. Even like, you know, there's so much drama with the coaches, and they all have their kind of like, some of them have like avatar status. They're seen as gods, or they're seen, I guess, because of the internet and how social media is now, you know, the heroes and the villains, all of this and the that. And everyone kind of picks who their favorite, you know, player is. And it has so much, there's so much entertainment within it, from the movement of the players to the attitudes of the players to the attitudes of the fans to the infighting amongst teams to the infighting amongst fans. And then you've got all the commentators on top of that. Like, there's loads of commentators that I listen to on YouTube or on TV. And yeah, I guess the excitement comes from all of that energy that's sitting there. And people talk about the money. Well, why is there so much money in football? There's so much money in football because it is really, 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 really interesting. And there isn't anything else quite like it. Tennis is not the same because it's just one person hitting a ball to another person. Golf, I mean, sure, if you have all day. Cricket, if you have all year. Synchronized, you know, even Olympics. Okay, for me, okay, this is on tangent slightly, but Olympics, I love watching the gymnastics. I love the fluidity. I love the pose. I love the power. Yes, I love Simone Biles. Okay. But even that, people try and create drama around it, but nothing comes close to matching the drama of football. And I think that's what makes it so great. I think that's why it's so popular, and I think that's why it continues to be popular. And to be honest, I'm surprised that more women aren't onboarded into the world of football, because it gives you the drama of a soap, the fluidity of like a street dance or ballet show, like a Black Swan or a, what is it, like Step Up. It gives you, you know, the unpredictability factor of like a drama TV show. It kind of combines all genres. You even get horror when someone gets injured, unfortunately, but it's all there. Every genre, there's theatrics, there's people, you know, pretending that they've been injured when they haven't been, and then sometimes getting injured. You have it all. So that's what I love about football, is the fact that, yeah, you have it all.